Good morning. It's Wednesday. It's 9 o'clock, and I'm here with Norma Talks. And today we're looking at the reading that I got for November. I must apologize for my voice. It's still croaky, and I'll be glad when this croakiness is all over. But we'll do the best we can, right? That's what we do in life, the best we can when we can do it. Now, before I show you the picture of this reading, I just want to explain the kind of reading I do for these. They're what I call it's an abbreviated general reading. And it's one it's in my book, Exploring the Patterns of the Tarot. But I find it very helpful sometimes to do this reading. If you want to kind of not having a big reading, but want to take a look at the main emphasis of how it goes. And this month, looking, I've got the cards put in front of me, but I also have a picture of the symbology, which I will put up more closer so you can look at it as I talk. It's an it's an interesting month. So why don't we do this? Why don't we put this up? I just want to make sure I'm looking around, make sure I've got it in the right place. Okay. First, we start off, and I always wonder how you see this because they sort of reverse everything in the things. But we start with the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords is always reactive, going ahead, not thinking, not looking, and it's kind of a dangerous position in lots of ways. So to me, and then what happens, all this activity for this, I would just say the first 3 days of November. And then we come to the Seven of Pentacles, where there is more of a sitting down, contemplating, looking, and whatever they were beginning in this first flurry isn't completed. And so there's a sort of a stop and a reconsidering. That to me goes on fifth to sixth. And then we go into the King of Swords. Now, the King of Swords is always a defensive. This is the way it is. This is how I want it. Not really as open to decision making as, or other alternatives, we might say, either. And so to me, there's a stalemate here. And to me, that takes us right up to maybe the 10th, even 12th. It's almost like everything kind of stops. And then, of course, followed by the Page of Pentacles, and which is more of again, sort of like the Seven of Pentacles, the economic part of it. It's like everybody is kind of, I don't know, I think it's almost like getting into camps, getting into what's my story, what's my way, excuse me, how I want it to be. And then things begin to break open a little bit. So really, we're looking, and I get like late teens, early 20s, everything is pretty static. But around the 20s, and I was thinking about that, I don't know why, but very often around the 20s, there is a difference that goes on. And it's like we get to the Three of Wands. Now we're projecting ahead. See, there's no projection in here. There's overreaction in the beginning, but the rest is very stationary. And now we're getting some ideas, looking out, thinking about that. But it's followed by the Five of Cups. Now, the Five of Cups is where we feel sad over things that have happened, depressed maybe. But it also shows there's alternatives. That the thing is, very often we don't look at alternatives. And I'll come back to that in a bit because it's a very important point. It also shows right beside that, and this is why I think we're into the deep 20s in here, is an end of an issue, and it's an ending, but it's also followed by the Empress, law of love, abundance, everything. And finally, as we're coming out to the end of the November, people are sitting and looking ahead with the King of Wands. The King of Wands representing projecting ahead, still maybe procrastinating because there's no real movement except for that very first symbol of the Knight of Swords. There's no real movement in here. Anyway, I hope you got a little glimmer of that. And I can show you, pull the symbols up so you can see them a bit clearer. But I looked at this when I first put it down, and said, oh my goodness, look at this. We're stagnant, totally stagnant, overreacting, stagnant. Oh, I've got an idea. But there's a sadness about what that's going to represent. And are we going to turn around? Something does turn around, but I think it's in the late 25th, 26th, 7th. I think that until then, whatever's going on in us, and remember, I'm looking at North America, I'm not looking at the world. It's like we're kind of caught. It feels like what's the word I want to say? Two elements. And who's winning? It reminds us, I don't know if your kid ever played on what we call seesaws, like where they go back and forth, and you have to be balanced. You have to balance it, because if you don't balance it, one is down, one is up, and I don't really see those in parks anymore, because sometimes they have some dangerous consequences. But it teaches balance and working together. And I'm not seeing here things working together. The highlight is the Empress. So let's look at the Empress a little closer. This is the law of love, number 3 of the higher arcana. It's the only higher arcana in this reading. But love is acceptance, to accept things as they are. And what we see here, we have abundance and growth. And then what I liked about this at the very last card at the bottom was this King of Wands projecting out into the future. But he's a procrastinator. And so this, except for and I'll bring this one up, the beginning, the very first symbol, the Knight of Swords. Look at how he's going. I mean, he's just going so fast, going flat stick, hilly land. Not good to be riding a horse like that, galloping flat out. Faceplate not up. Like, this man is not prepared at all for whatever it is he's doing. When I look at that, I think about what's going on right now in so many areas, in so many ways. Not that I sit down and watch the news too much at all, but you pick up things in other ways. But it's like after these first few days, everything gets stagnant. A lot of contemplation, but no real belief. The King of Swords, like this is, I look at the attitude cards, which I call the attitude cards. Knight of Swords is one. But what do we have here? Just 3 cards in. King of Swords. Stubborn, set, want it my way. You know, the old saying, my way or the highway kind of thing. He's a little open to logic. He's only open to logic. It's not open to any emotionality. But it's like, and there's decisions to be made. But then he's followed by another attitude, the Page of Pentacles, who's all caught up, perhaps in the material affairs, what's going on. We know there's money stuff happening in the background right now. So, and there's 2 money symbols. Like, actually, if I can show these together. 7 of Pentacles, followed by the King of Swords, followed by the Page of Pentacles. In the early part of the month, probably before the, definitely before the 15th, but maybe by the 12th, before the 12th. So a lot of money things going on, and I don't know that it's going to be that open to that. I don't know that everyone's going to be aware of all what's going on behind the scenes, but there's definitely something going on here that's stuck. Everything is stuck until the 3 of Wands. Projecting out, has some brain power, that's for sure. Moving out, looking out, but may not work here in the 5 of Cups that follows that. This is when I think we're getting into 20s of the month. This is where the change begins to happen. A letting go of the old. This is a letting go of the old. It's depressing, it's sad, but it's got to be let go because we've got to turn around. And followed by the 10 of Swords will show this is the end, but we're not in the new yet. We're not in the new because the Empress is coming. Then we're in the new. But then, see, we procrastinate. It's all ideas. We could do this, we could do that, we could do the other. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? This is all a conjecture. So how's this going to apply to us generally for this month? I don't think when I look at this that the general person like you and me are going to know what's going on. I think there's a whole lot happening that we may get tidbits of, but it's also static. It's like money has a part of this for sure. Overreaction, definitely, with that Knight of Swords going on. But it's like it doesn't really lead anywhere, and we won't really be clear of where these next things are taking us, because it's definitely a change. It's definitely changing. It's not going to be what it was. Excuse my voice. Hang on a minute here. But the combination of the Ten of Swords and the Empress shows definitely a change. But as I said, we're in the middle to late 20s by then for sure of the month. So until we hit the 20s, late teens, I don't even think it's the late teens, I think it's the early 20s, whatever you hear, whatever is going on is not the end result. It's just stuff, just happened. A lot of people made it trying to figure things out. Definitely got money involved in it, but it's also got movement of the direction of where they were going and what they're going to be doing. I will be interested to see when we get to that 26th, 7th, 8th of the month, just before we hit this King of Wands, the procrastinator. Because I think people will be feeling, yay, whatever is happening, whatever change is going on, we're moving out of that. We're moving into much more of an awareness. And because we don't know what December brings yet, that's going to be interesting, because how does that follow this? So I'll just show you one more time up here on this little piece of paper I have. I just want to make sure we're up good. Just take a look at how stagnant most of this symbology is. And to be honest, as a reader, it does not flow easily. And for those of you that have listened to me as the months have gone by, I talk about flow. We don't get any flow in this until we get to that 10 of Swords, which is in the middle of this reading. And followed by the Empress. There's hope, but except for the beginning of the month when it looks like people are overreacting to some degree, there's no real movement. There's no flow. The Three of Wands gives a sense of hope, but it's ideas being projected out. But then it all stabilizes again. So it's almost wherever I look to go to get, oh, I got movement here, because I like movement. You got to have flow. You got to have movement forward. I think November, until we get to towards the end of the month, late 27th, even 26th is a bit early, I think. We're not going to really see it. We're kind of limp along having reactions, but watch the money stuff, okay? Watch the money stuff. There's something going on there for sure. The ideas of what's being projected, listen carefully. Listen carefully to the words, because they may not be, sometimes when we hear news people or something, they'll say one thing, but underneath they're really saying something else. I think you need to watch for that a little bit, because I don't see truth here. I see lots of attitude, people maybe saying certain things or wanting to do this or wanting to do that. But I am confident more once I get to the late 20s of November. But then we've got one of the big procrastinators sitting there with all these ideas but not doing anything. Idealistic, but no movement. This doesn't really except in that beginning card, which is now, there's no real movement here. But we do have the law of love. We do have an opening. So let us pray that that opening is going to open things up and make things a lot easier and a lot better. So hang on to your hats in November. Hang on to the hats as the news comes up, what it may say, what it may do, but also don't think this is absolute, because things are going to change, they're going to shift, they're going to be aware. That's really all I've got to say. It seems like I've said a lot, but that's really all I got to say, with symbols that don't really make a big story at all. Interesting month, November. But on the other hand, I was just reading here, they're expecting freezing rain. They're expecting all our highways, which kind of go high because we're fairly we're a mountainous province, is going to be not very good through tonight and tomorrow. But that is November. And we have winter coming early, really early this year. I feel it's early anyway. Maybe it isn't by stats, but I didn't look at those. But it feels early, and it's cold and it's cool. You know, every morning it's cool for us. So, but thank God we have central heating. I grew up in houses when I was a kid with no central heating. Now I lived in a warmer climate, but believe me, the winter months still got cool, but I'm always appreciative of central heating, I'll tell you. And as long as it's all electrical where I am, as long as electricity works, I'm going to be warm. So we're okay there. I want you to have a good November. I want you to be able to enjoy. I'm just tucking these away. I want you to be able to enjoy sometimes probably the lack of awareness of what's going on, because we know things go on behind the scenes. That has become quite obvious in the last few years, for sure, that, you know, we probably are the last ones. The common man's probably the last one to really know what's happening or what's going on. But optimism. I'm sending out my newsletter today, and I've kind of done it more as a little more like a ladder. And I was mentioning my optimism. I'm always optimistic. Like I believe in people. I believe in life. I believe in the planet. So it's like having that optimism that some people are what we used to call gloom and doomers, you know, and always got the gloomy side of things. And but life has a way of moving on. And sometimes now you just have to be really careful of what's out there as fact, and somehow find a way of maybe looking at other alternatives to find out, is that fact or not fact? But it's an interesting time period. It's definitely a shifting going on, which we know is happening. As I mentioned before, moving into the age of Aquarius, we've got things happening in the sky, and many people are affected by those. Society is affected by those. So there's a lot of shift and change. And unfortunately, for the month of November, for us in North America, there might be a lot of ideas going around. There might be but I don't see a lot of super duper action as yet. Perhaps that's incorrect, but that's what it showed me when I looked. So I want you to have a really, really good week. I will be back on Sunday. I'm sure I'll have some thought about something. In the meantime, I want to say hi to Lisa Marie, who's written on the chat line saying good morning. And I say good morning to you and blessings back. And also, what else did I want to say? I think that's it for today. So, and Marion says, good morning. Thank you for being here, everybody. Thank you for and I just do my usual, like, thank you for your likes. Thank you for the subscribing. Thank you for sharing. There's lots of shares go on back there, and I appreciate that. And so, yeah, November, just plod along a little bit, but keep your lives moving. Keep your lives moving where you feel in command. That, I think, is the main thing. God bless. Take care. Enjoy. I'll see you Sunday. Bye.